I am Lauren Holland, and essentially now my job is to look after universities, colleges, technical training centres, and just essentially making sure that they are kind of future ready, are they up to date with technology? And a lot of education don't necessarily have the funding for it. So we kind of partner with places and colleges, obviously MK College is a partner of ours, and we bring in that technology and we kind of say, right, okay, let's help upskill your students so that when they are ready to enter the workforce, they are future ready essentially. So I actually technically work for Leica Geosystems, and we manufacture surveying, construction, engineering technology. So we've actually just released a new total station, and it's something that uses kind of AI and future features and things like that. But it will go straight into surveyors in the field. But it has such a broad variety of professions and industries it goes into. You know, we've got like machine control and reality capture, which is like laser scanning, those kind of 3D point cloud, all that kind of data, the geomatics, the surveyors, the engineers, yeah, it goes into all sorts really. So yeah, it's a very exciting company to work for. I get hands-on with quite a lot of fun equipment. So my role was created essentially to create a sustainable future workforce, whether this be through like colleges, universities, technical training. It's all about kind of upskilling people into the workforce. I'm essentially here to make sure that we have a talented, technology ready future workforce to close that skills gap. And basically it keeps the UK spinning. And, you know, especially when it comes to sustainability as well, it's quite a tricky one because, as you said, I don't have much directly to do with sustainability, but everything I do involves that. So the technology that I use every day, you know, is essentially helping reduce those re-site visits and time on site and efficiency and things like that, really. So it's kind of contributing to these major projects that are happening in the UK, and it all kind of essentially feeds in. So I am a land surveyor by trade, so I actually studied geography at university, fell into land surveying, and it was one of the best things that had ever happened. A lot of people just stumble into land surveying because they haven't really heard of it or don't know much about it, but it kind of opens up this kind of really broad career future, really, because yeah, it falls into so many different sectors. Our industry, so construction, surveying, engineering, is kind of sitting at a bit of a crossroad for some of the biggest sustainability challenges. The construction sector is known for having really heavy carbon emissions through that kind of material use, transport, things like that. There is, there's a really poor bank of outdated data. So, and that basically leads to like rework, wasted materials, inefficiency, things like that, because the data isn't good enough. So they're having to go back to site to do things. There isn't that kind of sharing of information as well. Digitalization is essential. We use it, you know, we're kind of looking at how we can put things up in the cloud and how we can all be connected at once. And that essentially stops people driving to and from site all the time. But what comes with that is that kind of managing those data centers, that storage, that energy consumption as well. So that also comes into it. So it's kind of like a good thing, but also it comes along that too. And essentially climate change itself. So we're designing and building a world where flooding, heat stress, those kind of shifting weather patterns are no longer those kind of future risks, like they're risks and realities of today. So we are having to adapt our technology and work with our customers so that they are ready for those risks that are essentially happening now. So yeah. So a lot of what we do is ensuring that kind of accurate and precise data, those digital tools, those actual hardware that they're going out to site with. As I mentioned, obviously we brought out this new bit of kit, which is using AI and that enhanced technology, and it has all those benefits that's going to reduce those re-site visits, those reworks, you know, the lugging of like heavy equipment everywhere. And a lot of companies do have electric vehicles now, so they're kind of trying to go that way, but a lot still do use those kind of heavy diesel petrol cars. So the amount that we can do to help them having to make those journeys, obviously the better. And comes with that is that kind of 3D modeling as well. We try and practice those sustainable work practices internally too. So, and it's the small things, but it all adds up. Like, we've always been very paper heavy, very, very paper heavy. There's like cabinets and cabinets of paper, and it's printing this, and you have this delivery note and this and this. So it's all like, what can we actually do ourselves to if we're going to go out preaching it and promoting it, we need to sort of do something internally. So it's reducing those kind of things, like changing everything to just black and white instead of color all the time. And it's those like small changes, turning off lights, having automatic lights, like controlling the aircon, because it used to kind of be all over the place, whereas now it's at like steady temperature, so that it essentially is helping reduce those emissions. We obviously work very closely alongside the education sector. So a lot of the role that I have is helping bridge that gap to create that kind of measurable positive outcomes for the environment and society by educating that generation of tomorrow. Hexagon Geosystems actually have something called green cubes as well. So I don't work directly with them, but I am very interested in it all because I think it's amazing. And I actually am looking to buy a couple of green cubes myself. But we essentially use reality capture, LiDAR, airborne imagery, and ground sensors to essentially build a digital twin of a tropical rainforest, which essentially is like a digital version of reality, essentially. Down to the cubic meter. And this lets like corporations sponsor parts of the forest, and then it gives those kind of forest owners and people that work there that sustainable income, helps monitor biodiversity and deforestation and things like that, really. So although Leica Geosystems, we do manufacture that hardware and the kind of software as well, Hexagon Geosystems and the kind of wider picture has a lot of things like this, which is going on alongside us, which we're working with. And I love talking about it because I think green cubes are absolutely incredible. So, yeah. At like GCSE level, I had a real interest in like geography, but I didn't know where that was going to go. Geography and science, but I essentially ended up doing a real mix of geography, food technology, and music, just to kind of give me a bit of variety. But doing a subject like geography, like maths, certain parts of science as well, it just gives you that knowledge of the built environment. That's essentially what it is, that the world around you, everything surveying is we're measuring beneath the surface, on the surface, above the surface, like it's everything you see and things that you don't see. So it's just having that kind of bigger picture. And it is about shaping that future. I, even myself, when I go into London, I'm like, oh, I helped build that, and oh, I set out all the walls on that building, and that wouldn't be where it'd be if it wasn't for me on site doing that. And surveyors every single day are shaping the world that we see. So I think it's really, really exciting. I would just say, that kind of environmental awareness is really big. I think it just helps. I think it helps when going to like job interviews and things like that to be able to kind of talk about that built environment. Adaptability, you need to be constantly learning and evolving, and that also comes from a technology perspective. And this is where the profession kind of does go into that kind of technology side of things and that digital, because a lot of what we do now is software. And yeah, I mean, I used to love playing The Sims growing up, and essentially some of what we do now is like that. You're building these 3D buildings and things like that. So yeah, it's very, very exciting, but you have to be constantly learning and willing to adapt, and therefore you'll forever kind of grow in this kind of profession. And actually feel like you want to make a change and have that purpose, knowing that every single bit of data you capture, or even drawing you produce, influences those kind of decisions that impact people, communities, and the planet, essentially. I would just say it's like one of those kind of careers where you can truly just make a difference. You can stand on the ground one day with your scanner or a total station or GNSS, and it really could help reduce those carbon emissions if that's kind of what you're doing, protect biodiversity, and make cities more resilient. It's definitely more than just a job. It's that kind of impact. And yeah, it's definitely a profession that I'm proud to be of every single day.